welcome to a very special episode of the Executive Exclusive. I am your County Executive, Julie Giordano, and with me today is not Bunky Luffman, but we are so excited to have him here today, and it is Earl Campbell from Eastern Shore Undercover. So Earl, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, no problem. Oh my gosh, this is so great. So Bunky is at an award ceremony for his kids, and so I said I was doing the Executive Exclusive today, so I really appreciate you coming on. And I've been wanting to get you here, so this is exciting.
Yes, we talked about it in the past.
Yes, yes. See, you're not the only one that does videos. I do videos too, yeah. So a little bit, I know any viewer that is out there right now, I know you know Eastern Shore Undercover, but we're going to talk to Earl a little bit about what he does and what he does for the community, and then we're going to kind of move in, of course, to the council meeting. And I get to have Earl here talk to me about the council meeting, or talk with me about the council meeting, because he was there, so we'll be able to have a good conversation. So let's talk a little bit about Eastern Shore Undercover. So first and foremost, I know you said that you started it during COVID,
yes.
And then it just sort of blew up. Like, everyone loves the show. So talk a little bit about how that happened.
It was just a private page. And I sent out 50 friend requests to friends and family, just that wanted to know what was going on, the real reality of what was happening in Wicomico County. It was just Wicomico County at that time. I didn't do any other areas. It was solely Wicomico. And it just kept growing. And then people would say, hey, can my brother get on here? Can my sister get on here? Hey, my mom wants to know this. And I was like, I'm not dealing with all this. I'm changing it to a public page. And anybody wants to join can join. And it just started growing, and it never stopped.
Yeah, you're right. So, okay, I have a question for you. Are you able to see where people live? Like, are you able to see, like, what their residence is?
Yes. So there's a couple different ways. Like, so Facebook gives you, anybody that has a Facebook page it's called Insights. And the Insights will break it down generically. You have 70% from this county, 20% from this county. And then they go in a little bit deeper to, Berlin, if you're in Worcester County, Pocomoke. I use a couple different platforms, one called HubSpot, one called Sprout Social. When you get to a certain size, you have to kind of break off. Facebook really doesn't want to take up their memory on their platform, so they make you go off to another social media platform.
Okay.
So that's where we use different agencies, and they break it down much deeper. They give you a lot of details. They tell you who's on the page at what time. A lot of people don't read a lot of these social media policies of what they can and can't do. But when you're on social media, you really give up a lot of your rights, and it gives the social media platforms the ability to say, okay, well, this person's on here. He's a repeat. He's been on here 19 times today.
Right.
This person's been on here, 30 times, and this person lives on the page. So
I'm probably one of those people that lives on the page. I'm on there a lot. Well, my question to you is, so if you had to kind of guess, what do you think the farthest reach that you have?
So we actually have somebody that lives in Ireland, and they follow our page constantly.
Oh, wow.
They were I don't know what the name of the workers are that come to Ocean City.
Okay, yeah.
But they were in Ocean City a couple years ago, and they found the page, and they just loved it. We had an incident where somebody got locked into a building, and they thought that was the funniest case ever, and they've been following us ever since.
Yeah, so I'll tell you my Eastern Shore Undercover, like how I became a fan. So a friend of mine who lives in Worcester County said, do you follow this page? And I said, no, I don't. And I was looking, and the post that she sent me, I will never forget it, was a lady that thought there were ghosts in her house.
Yes.
And that she was like had a knife, and it was like, and I'm like, who are these people? But it was funny because you look, and it really shows you. It's cool because you see what's going on in your community, and you see it, and I know you do a delay for officer protection and things like that, but you kind of see it almost in real time. It's the same day, and that's happening. But you see sort of the crazy reasons why people call the police too.
Yeah, and that's, when I first started, a lot of people were saying, you really shouldn't post this. This makes people look bad. And my thought process on that was, look, these first responders have to deal with this every single day. And if we don't put that out there, we're being biased, and we're not really putting out what's really happening in the community. So I put out the crazy calls. Yesterday we had a call where a guy was sucking his thumb on his car, and somebody thought it was suspicious, so they called the police. I don't know what they were thinking, but I posted it.
Your little notes at the bottom always kind of crack me up, like, don't ask, I have no idea why.
Yeah, don't ask me, I have no idea. 'Cause what happens is, and I never thought this would happen when we started this page, we have become like the go-to when something happens in the community. They see a police car driving up the street, the first thing they do is they message us. And like, giving another example, was last night, there was an incident in Ocean Pines, and I just happened to be out of the room at the time when the call came out. I came back and we had like 100 messages sitting there. What's happening in Ocean Pines? I see a helicopter. What's happening in Ocean Pines? So the community kind of relies on you to make sure that they're safe, and if their families are outside, hey, do I got to bring my daughter inside? So.
Well, I kind of rely on your page. I mean, there have been times where incidents are happening, and I understand, and I am not discrediting any police agency that works within the county, and I am not discrediting our emergency services. Sometimes their last thought is, let me make sure to text Julie to let her know, what's going on. But I'm able to utilize your page, and I can kind of know what's going on, because right after I sort of see it, or I see something maybe come across, I can, I've shot you a message before and you're able to get back to me. And then I have an answer, and I'm kind of ready, because there is nothing worse in this position. And I'm sure that our sheriff has felt it, or our state's attorney has felt it, or whatever, that we don't know, and we don't know what to tell a citizen. And you always feel like you have to be in the know with a lot of that. So I know I appreciate you being able to reach out and say, hey, can you kind of give me a little 411 as to what happened? That way I have some background, and I know what I can share and what I shouldn't share. So.
Yeah, there's actually there's lieutenants that follow the page, and he's reached out to me and told me, look, the reason I follow your page is because I'll hear it before you, and I know that my department's going to call me any minute now, and they're going to let me know all this, so I can be prepared ahead of time.
Yeah. So that kind of moves forward. So it's not just police calls you put out. You're putting events out there. You're helping people promote things. And you've raised money for different organizations and different things. I know we just got a vest for one of the canines at the sheriff's office, which is so exciting. So I really wanted to give you a shout out to that.
Thank you.
And a shout out to Bobby Joe, because now her pups are going to be nice and protected. So that's always great. And it's amazing seeing the community come together.
Yeah, I tell you, it's really amazing to see, like, when the community, when I first started this page, I never dreamed it would grow to what it is now. We were just putting out police calls when we first started. I didn't even put fire calls out. And now it's kind of grown into an events, and we do lost and found pets. I always get asked, how do you guys find so many people and pets? We could put them on there, and 10 minutes later, hey, I saw that dog. I got the dog here. And the reason is because just everybody follows it. I mean, think about it. It's 121,000 people, over 121,000 now.
Yeah, you've grown.
And
you've grown
it's like
a lot.
Everybody follows it.
Yeah, that's exciting. So I guess my question was, if you can look at percentages, what would you say, if you had to guess, and I don't know if you know this off the top of your head, what percentage of people reside in our county?
So I can tell you, when I did the video for when we hit 120,000 followers, it was like 64% Wicomico County.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It is.
It's more than what votes. So that's exciting.
Yes.
So anyway, so talking about events and everything else, this has sort of led you into probably a rabbit hole that you never really thought you would go down, and that's the political scene. So I want to say, from the bottom of my heart, I truly apologize, because I feel like you've had to really dive in, and I think that there have been things that happened since I've been in office, or even kind of before then, the election and things like that. People, it does get people kind of interested, and that is a good thing for them to see what's going on.
Yeah, and when I first started, I hated politics. I mean, I couldn't stand it, and still to this day, like, the national politics is one of the most annoying things to me. And I still, people always say it. I'll post something about a turtle crossing the road, and somebody will say, "Well, that was Joe Biden." And it's like, come on, really? It's like so annoying. But I think on a local level, it's so important to all of us. It's important to me. It's important to my family's future. I never wanted to do anything about politics. Never wanted to post anything. Unfortunately, this council that we have currently, they just push it to the limits, and I've rolled up the sleeves, and we're not going to stop. We're going to continue to post it, and more to educate the community, because I don't think a lot of the people that don't attend the council meetings, and I think the people that don't pay attention to what's going on, they don't have any idea of what this stuff is. They go to the election polls and they just push a button.
Right.
And that's dangerous. I mean, that's dangerous to all of us.
Well, it is. And especially, I think, people, you have people that are set, and they're just, going to vote based on their party. They're going to hit the Republican, they're going to hit the Democrat, and that's all there is to it. But what's more important are the ballot questions.
Yes.
And because what they end up doing is changing how we do business here in Wicomico County, and what is being put forward potentially on this ballot is huge. And it's, I had the last executive exclusive when Bunky and I were sitting here, I said, it is hard for me to talk about because I am the executive, but we're talking about changing the entire form of government and how we do things. And whether you like me as the executive or not, the executive form of government keeps checks and balances in our system, and it's so important. I can't even imagine having a group of people who make every single decision, and then they have somebody running the county who only answers to them.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how that is really going to fare well in this county. But go ahead. I mean, what are your thoughts?
And I personally, for starters, I think you've done a wonderful job.
Thanks.
The whole time you've been here, I mean, I've been a fan. I think looking at it from, and you keep hearing these people say, like, well, I know what's going on in the county. I know what's going on here. I can tell you that I speak with thousands of people a day. And there's a lot of people out here in this county that really appreciate what you've done and the hard work that you've put in. A lot of people don't like to talk about politics.
Right, they don't.
So when you look at a page like Eastern Shore Undercover and you see something that gets posted, you're going to have a small handful of people that are going to like that page, that are going to like that post, and they're going to comment. But there are thousands of people behind the scenes that will send us a message and say, we agree with you. They're harassing, County Executive Giordano. She's a little pit bull. She gets in there and she gives them it. We get them all. We get all the messages. And I wish, I beg for one of the county council members just to sit down and go over one day of Eastern Shore Undercover's comments and just look at it. And it would be such an eye-opening experience to them because they would see that this community does support you. Mm-hmm. And they just want the county council to work with you.
Yeah.
That's all that the community wants.
The other thing that's frustrating is that I think that there are people out there that think that I haven't tried. And, and I know that there are some council people that feel like, well, she allowed for, open door type things and, hey, you can come in and speak to me about this. And then I ended that. And it wasn't so much that I ended it, but what has happened is there have been several things that I have brought this council in on, and I have tried to work behind the scenes the way that they want me to. Let's iron this stuff out before we go in front. And they completely flip when they get over into council chambers when the TV is on them.
Right.
And that is what is so frustrating. And that's one of the things that I'm going to talk about, which is the fire service agreement. But before we get into that, I was going to talk a little bit about the public hearing. So I have had a lot of people reach out. You've probably had a lot of people reach out on your page. Are you okay? And that's what they asked me. Are you okay? That was really tough. That was rough. And I want people to know, after that public hearing, I feel so much more confident in coming forward and running a campaign against whatever ballot initiative, whatever it's going to read. And the reason I say that is I was comparing, I wasn't counting the way Councilman Baker was. I know he was counting and had a little tally up there. I don't like it that he didn't count the county employees because I think that they're super important. And, but when I was looking at who was for keeping the executive form of government, it was such a variety of people. You had business owners, you had restaurant owners, you had people who were Republican, you had people who were Democrat, you had male, you had female. You had such a wide variety of people, and for different reasons of standing up. But a lot of it was, we want the balance of power. We've already voted for this. Why are we bringing this back up? And then on the other side, the council side, you had the same people that have just taken over these meetings. And I understand, look, I appreciate the passion of the Shadow Hills group. They are adamant about wanting this park, and I think this whole idea of the squeaky wheel gets the grease, I understand that. But sitting here bad-mouthing me week after week after week after week, you have completely drowned out your actual cause of what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Because it's frustrating. So you have your Shadow Hills people, and then it was just a couple of other people. One of them was the old county attorney that really liked the councilmanic form of government because he worked for them. But that was about it.
Yeah.
So I was really wondering, are there going to be restaurants people, business people standing up and really saying, this is not the form of government we want. We want it on the ballot. And there wasn't. Mm-hmm. There just wasn't there. I mean, you were right there. I mean, you saw it. I mean, what are your thoughts on the back and forth of that?
Well, I think two things. First of all, I think that the council has a personal issue with you. Mm-hmm. I don't think it has anything to do with the executive. They just, I don't know if it's the woman issue, if it's, I don't know the reason, but there's an issue that they can't work with you. I think Shadow Hills gave them an opportunity to use them as pawns. Mm-hmm. They are pawns in a game for this council to, hey, we can allow this group to do all the work for us. We can sit back and shut our mouth for the most part, and they're going to make her look bad. maybe it looks bad for the people of Shadow Hills, but it doesn't look bad for the rest of the county. And what I've heard from many people that have reached out to us in messages and conversations and phone calls, and my wife and I go out to dinner 3 to 4 times a week, the business owners, they're all like, why is this council only focused on Shadow Hills? Do they forget that there's an entire county out here that they need to be making these policies for and they need to be working for, and they're not. They've kind of put all their ducks in one basket, and that's all Shadow Hills. And that's just not fair. It's just not. And I don't, it's been said that I banned a lot of people from the Shadow Hills from the page, and I have. I've banned 2 people from there. We couldn't get along. We couldn't come to an agreement, and I just didn't like the way things were being said. I thought that person just wasn't good for the page, and they needed to go. But I would have no issues sitting down with Shadow Hills, these people, and explaining to them, look, first of all this happened before you took office. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. And I've tried to explain this to some people, and they're like, well, it did, because and I'm like, no. This happened before she took office, but she's being blamed for it because she's the easy target.
Right. Well, and so, and I know we were talking a little bit about this before the show started, but just to let you all know, what's frustrating to me, and I'm just going to air the grievance really quickly, is we are trying to figure out a path forward. But every time I try to even try to work a plan, or how is this going to work, it's like 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. And I'll give you an example. One of their biggest complaints are the dirt bikes back there. We know, and you get the calls all the time on your page of dirt bikes all over the county. We know that they're a problem. So I talked to our public works department, and they talked about, well, what do you think about fencing in certain areas of the park, here I am calling it a park, our work site, fencing in the work site, that way it can kind of keep people out. And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at what that cost is. Well, then I'm bashed for trying to fence in the area to keep it secure. And so then it's like, well, we want to walk back there. We want to be back there. And the reason I cannot allow people back there, it is a liability. It is a work site.
Absolutely.
And if I have people get injured out there, the county is on the hook, and I'm not going to put us in a lawsuit type of situation. So we've posted the no trespassing signs. We are digging dirt for our landfill there. And I get it that people think that the place is beautiful. You and I were out there for the safari at the quarry. Yes. It's a great site. But right now, that's what we're utilizing it for. Brad Hoffman had a $5 million insurance policy to cover anybody who came out there. His staff, himself, and any of the drivers that were out there. The county was completely off the hook. And so that's what I don't think people understand. And so then we have a group saying, well, we want to walk back there. Then you have somebody else from Shadow Hill stand up and say, well, we don't even utilize the space. We're doing this for the rest of the county. So it's very contradicting. And so it's like you try to look at, okay, dirt bikes are an issue. How can I fix dirt bikes? But we don't like that solution. So it's very difficult. It's a very difficult a group of people to try to come up with solutions. And that makes me feel like, do they even want solutions, or do they just want to continuously complain and now use this driving factor as this ballot initiative?
Yeah, and I think the whole thing with the Shadow Hills, and I've heard it from both sides, I think the whole thing has to do with, look, this has been used as kind of like a extension of their backyard. And I think that they're upset with the fact that there are dirt bikes that go back there, there are four-wheelers that go back there, and it's annoying.
I get it.
Well, guess what? It's annoying to every other person in Wicomico County, too. So if we're going to show preferential treatment to the folks at Shadow Hills, and we're going to make sure that there's no dirt bikes or, four-wheelers back there on their extension of their property, well, what about everybody else?
Yeah. And that kind of leads into the council comments. So I know you did a video on your page about the council comments. And so for the first time, I'm going to go ahead and give my public thought on a couple of them. And I just want to clarify, I think that was the term Mr. Canning used, but a couple of things. So the first comment that was made is that the executive doesn't like oversight. No executive has ever liked oversight. That is not the case. I have seen it time and time again. We have a charter in place. I follow the charter. My county attorney is the moral compass of that charter, and the judge said we followed the charter. So I follow the charter. The problem is that the council continuously blurs those lines as to what that looks like. They want to get involved in personnel issues. They want to get involved in things that it is not their job. They are the legislators. And for example, I had a councilman call today. I'm not going to say who it was, and they're talking about an employee who is upset that they had to pay something back for a training that they signed off on. I'm not going to say the employee's name, but that is not your wheelhouse at all. That county councilman should have said to the employee, this is a personnel issue. I really can't get involved. Yes. Period. Yes. You know what I mean? And so that's what's so frustrating is that they continuously blur the lines. And then if they don't like that whether it was Rick Pollitt, whether it was Bob Culver, John Pasota, or myself, when we call them out and say, this is what the charter says, you know what they do? They create legislation to make it that they have more power. And that has been the continuous way that has gone on. Mm-hmm. You know, President Cannon mentioned that he worked with the other CEs, or the other county executives, you know, and that is not true. Every county executive has ceased going to council meetings. Rick, Bob, John, and me, all of us. Every single one of them said we're not coming. I was, my office, it wasn't me personally, was personally warned by the previous county executive to watch out for 2 specific councilmen. And I'm not going to name them, but you can probably guess who they are. So to sit there and tell the public, I've gotten along with this one, I've gotten along with that one, is not true. I see the letters that have been sent almost, you know, whether it was every Friday or whatever it is, these horrific, nasty letters accusing the county executive of doing something, and that dates all the way back to Rick, to Bob, to John, and then to me. Yeah. You know, and that's really frustrating because to sit there and say, oh, I got along great with these people. No, you didn't. Right. Now, you may get along fine with them now, but they're no longer the county executive. Yes. But you did not. You did not get along with them.
And I think that has a lot to do with just the county council wants that power. They want to be able to make all the decisions. They don't want you or whoever it is sitting in that county executive position to have anything to do with it.
Well, and the other thing that they talked about is they claim transparency. You know, and I heard some citizens say, we just love the council meetings because they're so transparent. You guys talk about everything. I know for a fact that these people are not that foolish. When, especially during day meetings, when the council leaves and goes right in the back room to eat their lunch, what do you think they're talking about? Right. They're talking about what's going on in the county business. There is county business from that county council that is taken care of before they go in. It is so funny. If you watch some of the council meetings, it's almost scripted. It's scripted what they say, it's scripted how they vote, and I will give this audience a perfect example, and you can watch it on the budget meeting. There was a budget meeting where at the very beginning, there was a printed piece of paper that was handed to Pam Moland. And on that printed piece of paper were the cuts that the council was suggesting and where the additions should be. Now, they know that they can't add unless it's education, but they can make suggestions for additions, and then I have to agree to those additions. Right. Okay? One of them, for example, was the volunteer fire, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But that piece of paper was done behind closed doors. It was done with the council president, the council administrator, and their internal auditor, the internal auditor that's supposed to be independent, but she works for them. So that's what it was done. So you can't tell me that that's transparent. Right. The cuts should have been discussed in the meeting, not prior to coming in. You see what I mean? So if they're all making the cuts. And it was funny because Councilman Merritt actually gave it away because he said, where did this $825,000 come to add it in? And I'm like, that's your addition. Like, why don't you know what's on that paper? And I don't know if it was just like a misconception or whatever it was, but like, that was done behind closed doors. So I'm not saying that council meetings aren't transparent. They do talk out there, but there are deals and phone calls and things like that made behind those closed doors. Come on.
Even carrying on that, even, you know, President Cannon, he admitted to it in the last meeting because he said, you know, when he was questioned about only working 2 days a month, he even said, you know, we were on the phone, I was calling this one, I was calling this one, I was calling this one. So they're working on stuff behind the doors that is not, you know, transparent. If you're on the phone and you're discussing county business, it's not where public can see it.
Right. So there are things that happen behind the scenes, and that's just the way things are. You know, things happen behind the scenes and whatever else. But don't sit there and say every single thing that we do is out here in the open. Right. That is just foolish. No. And nobody, I know not one person who is watching this show believes it. So the other thing that I wanted to also address is the loophole. I keep hearing 364 days was a loophole. Okay, 364 days is not a loophole. 364-day contract is in the charter. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. In the charter, the county executive does not have to take one-year deals to the council. That's the check and balance. They do have to take multi-year deals. Okay? So when I was doing the live wire, was it because I didn't want to go in front of council because they would shut it down? That was one reason. But the other reason was I was not willing to do a multi-year deal because I had no idea what this event was going to do.
Right.
I knew Brad, you know, and everyone's like, oh, it's her friend from so long ago. I've known Brad a long time. I don't know him as a business guy. I knew him because he's married to a friend of mine's sister.
Right.
So, like, that's how I knew him, but I didn't know him in the business sense. But be that as it may, he put on a great event.
Absolutely.
And but I wasn't willing to do a multi-year deal because I didn't want to be committed to something if it turned out to be bad. So it is not a loophole if it is in the charter. There are inherent executive powers and there are inherent council powers, you know? And so that's the way checks and balances work. There's some things the executive can do and there are some things that the council can do.
Yep.
So there's that. And then I think the last comment that I wanted to talk about was, it was Councilman Holloway. Oh, and I wanted to give him a shout out today because I know he watches my show. And I'm giving you a shout out, Joe. It's fine, but I didn't stab you in the back. And the stabbing in the back, that just goes to show how personal this is. So to sit there and say, this ballot initiative is not personal, every single comment they made was personal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, carrying on what he was saying, you know, I got a little frustrated with his antics that he was saying, and I think, you know, I don't know this for sure, but I think he kind of slipped up. You know, at the end of his little comments, he said, you know, it's time for a new style of government. Well, everyone else was saying that, you know, it's not us making the decision, it's the people. But Mr. Holloway got up there and said, it's time for a new style of government.
Right.
And then he stopped himself and he said, I'm going to stop because I'm getting angry. Well, I think you just caught yourself. You know, you blurted out when you're angry, you say things that are how you mean.
Right, exactly. And everyone knows that Councilman Holloway in particular has never liked the executive form of government.
No.
The last time they did the charter review, he was outside kind of scoping people to be like, hey, change the charter, you know, for the charter review, and they were not entertaining it. So, and that's what I said in my comment. It's frustrating to me that you're ignoring the voice of the people who already voted. You're ignoring the charter review that literally just happened a couple years ago. That their council attorney was on. Bob Benson was on that. And so you're ignoring that type of thing. Every poll that we have done, I don't care if it's 17 to 15, what was it, 1,200 to 100 stating, we have won every, and I say we, because I'm just going to say we. The executive has won every single time that they want to keep that form of government. Every single platform, whether it's online, in person, whatever, and they're still, you know, wanting to put this forward with the hopes that the uninformed voter just goes in and votes yes and doesn't really read it. And I think they're underestimating me.
And I think that's what's happened in the years past. I think people just go into these elections and they're looking at one thing, they're looking at the president. And then the rest of the ballot, they just click buttons. They don't know who they are. They just, oh, you know, that guy was on the staff last year. You can't, and that's not the way to do it.
Yeah, you really do need to do your research.
Yes.
And the only other thing I'm going to say about the council is they were very upset, or seemed upset, that it seemed like Bunky and I, this last executive exclusive that we did, were really tearing them up and saying like nasty things about them. And there was a part of me that almost laughed because I'm like, have you watched the last 6 months of these council meetings or 5 months of these council meetings and what you have allowed? You have allowed citizens to stand up, berate me, talk about me, my finances, my family, called me a sociopath, a psychopath, or whatever else, and you have allowed that to happen, and that you're upset because Bunky and I told the truth. We talked about exactly what was going on with this council, and you get upset about it. I find that almost insulting in a way, where it's like you're going to badmouth me and sit there and say, I can't believe that she would say these horrible things about me, but you've allowed that nonsense in the council. And you kind of talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not just this last one. It's every week. I mean, if you go back a couple weeks, you'll see where Councilman Shane Baker, I mean, he went off on a tangent about, said you weren't there, or I knew you were there because I saw you poke your head around, and then you went back because there was no seats. And like he points that out, and he goes on these tangents, and it kind of, you know, incites the crowd to more negativity, and that's not what we need for the county.
Well, no, and the thing is that, and Bunky and I have talked about this, the council meetings are not for that. They are not this gripe session, you know, and we talked about having comments that, you know, would be considered civil, and that you have that civility up at the podium, and unfortunately, it's like they kind of like when they're bad-mouthing me, and that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I don't care if I was on the council. Maybe it's easy for me to say because I'm on the other side. I could not imagine running a meeting and allowing citizens to bad-mouth another elected official or allow them to badmouth my department heads or things like that. And you know as well as I do, let's talk about other elected officials, not the council. Do you think that that council would allow anybody to speak poorly about Sheriff Mike Lewis?
Never.
No,
never.
or State's Attorney Jamie
Never
Dykes,
happened.
and neither one of them deserve that in that council meeting. They don't.
And I'll even go a little further. If you go back and look at the council meeting where, and I don't remember where he was at, but Mr. Cannon, President Cannon, was not at the meeting, and Councilman Jeff Merritt was running the show. Somebody called someone out by name, and I don't remember who it was. I'd have to go back and look at it. But he stopped the guy from talking and said, "You're not going to refer to this man by his name. You're not going to call out a council member." I'm like, if that's not the pot calling the kettle black.
I know. I mean, and that's what's so frustrating to me. And the thing is that I don't agree with it on either side. I don't think that anybody should be getting up yelling at them or saying horrific things about them. And I would just hope that they would reciprocate that respect to my office as well. Yes. And it's like I said, you know, I work hard for the people of this county every day, every single day. And to sit there and have a group of people sit there and say, well, we don't need her or we don't need that. You know, my husband, you know, he was in the audience with me. We were sitting right behind you. And he, you know, gets very defensive, you know, because people were talking bad about his wife. This is why I don't let him in council meetings.
Of course.
Because, you know, he wanted to stand up, but, you know, I'm like, look, you got to stay calm and sit down, you know. But, you know, he gets so frustrated because he knows how hard I work. He knows how long I'm on the phone. He knows the emails that I'm doing. He gets to see it from a personal standpoint, and to sit there and think, oh, well, we don't need her office, you know, is really frustrating.
And I think that I'm just going to call it what it is. That's a lack of leadership on behalf of the council president. You can call it whatever you want. That's a lack of leadership, because a lot of the stuff that is said in that council meeting should not be said. I mean, they were telling people, if you go back and watch the council meeting where they were talking about the quarry, safari at the quarry, there were people that were calling turkeys extinct. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Right.
I'm like, I even sent one of the police officers who I know that hunts a lot. I sent him a message. I'm like, are turkeys extinct? And he sent me back a picture, and he's like, I don't know, but I'm getting ready to kill a couple more. And he was in the woods. I'm like, this doesn't even make common sense. That stuff should be eliminated, because when you spread false information, it is like it's a plague. It spreads like wildfire. And you have this person will go and tell this person, hey, there's turkeys that are going to be endangered. They shouldn't allow this event. And it's common
What's
sense.
going to happen at Thanksgiving?
Right.
We're all going to be without the main course, I guess.
You know, and it's just a lot of misleading information that gets up there and said by the public that are just not educated enough.
No, you're right. You're right. And the thing is that, you know, and we'll move on to this fire service agreement, because I know we don't have a ton of time left, but with the, you know, you are right. And that's kind of where this fire service agreement comes in, because I think there was like somebody who stood up and said, she cut public safety and cut this and cut that. I didn't cut any public safety.
Right.
I funded all of public safety. The only cuts that were made were from the council. And I just want to take everybody like through this fire service agreement, because, you know, the plot has thickened here. And I know you kind of know, because you were given some info, or, you know, sent some a press release or two today. So I want everybody to understand where we are with this fire service. So the city and I, very much in a good faith, had this negotiation. The city kind of started off at $4.9 million, and I almost like threw up, honestly, because I was like, look, we can't afford $4.9 million. And we negotiated. We went back and forth, and we settled on $2 million. People are like, where did you come up with this $2 million? We came up with the $2 million for a couple of reasons. The allocations that we give to our volunteer firemen, 668 times 3, because Salisbury covers 3 districts, is about $2 million. That's where the $2 million came from. And I know I talked a little bit about this. The council then went in. We wanted to do the $2 million. The council cut it to 1.4. There was a letter that was sent by Mayor Randy Taylor to the council, to me, and to everybody, you know, saying this is not okay. This is not okay. And I think you were tagged in that situation, because from Salisbury City, right? So you guys got that.
Well, Salisbury, the fire department.
The fire department.
Yeah.
Right?
So they tagged us, and I really didn't know too much about it. When I don't know stuff about things, I'm like, I'm not going to put my opinion in there. I literally took it, I shared it, and I said, look, what's your opinion on this? And it just took off.
Yeah, it blew up.
There's a lot of people were commenting, like, I can't believe this is happening. This council is at it again. And I think it was in the back of people's minds that they had just shot down the collective bargaining agreement, and then they had just shot down the funding for the fire department. And then the next day they approved it, which was just a flex of power. That was all that was, in my opinion. I could tell you that when I was at the budget meeting, not the budget meeting, but the council meeting, and there was a lot of sheriff's deputies there. And when they shot that down, that collective bargaining agreement, over the I don't know what it's called,
COLA.
actuary or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Because
Those deputies turned around and they were like, I cannot believe this. This was the most smoothest process we've had, and they just shot it all down. And I think what they try to do is, and you said this in the past, it was political pawns. You know, they're using the fire departments, they're using the police departments, the sheriff's department, whatever, to get their way and to make it look bad on you. Well, hey, you didn't give us X, Y, Z. Reality, I mean, look, we can go on forever, but it goes back to the personal issue versus the county executive.
Yeah. So of course, Mayor Taylor sends out his frustration. And then at the council meeting on Tuesday, when they passed the budget, they did some amending of the resolutions, and one of them was they ended up only cutting $400,000 rather than the $600,000. So in a way, they added $200,000 back. So we're at 1.6. I'm going to be honest with you. That could have. I don't know if it's worse or not, because what that does is shows two things. One, it shows either the council knew they were wrong, and so here it is, we're going to give some of this money back. But the other thing is, but you're still not important enough or good enough or deserving enough of the $2 million. Yes. And I think it's worse now, because another letter was sent by the mayor that basically was like, while I appreciate the 200, this is not a negotiable number. And so now we have this $400,000 deficit. The city is now claiming that they are going to be working to retract their services. And here we are, we're kind of stuck. So then in response to that letter, the council, it was unbelievable to me. And this is out for the public, so anybody can go on and see this press release. The council put out a press release of all the good doing that they did on the budget, and they talk about how they funded Salisbury City Fire as an increase of 60%. And so not only did you see Mayor Taylor's reaction, like you get this letter stating, guys, this is not good enough, and then they gloat in a press release. I was shocked. I mean, because you got the press release. So what was your thought when you saw it?
Well, I was shocked just like you. I'm like, I can't believe they put this out. I think it was a way of them trying to gain a little bit of credit back. Like, hey, we did this, X, Y, and Z. In reality, that was not the right way to go about it. And correct me if I'm wrong. I may be wrong about this, but when it comes to the fire department, you guys pay them for last year, so it's kind of like paying a cable bill or your rent.
Exactly.
Correct?
Yep.
So you're not even paying your bill. If you don't pay your bill, they shut you off. So I have no idea what they were thinking. I really don't.
I don't either. And I was really kind of shocked about it. And I feel like, I'm at the point where, if they're just going to sit there and say, well, she's bashing us, you know what? I might as well just not bash them, but I'm going to criticize. Yes. Like, I can't believe that that this was the public relations move that they thought was good when we literally just got a letter stating we're going to get rid of, we're cutting services. And you're like, but hey, look at the great job we did. And I'm like, so now where are we? I'm going to let you know. We are at the point where I got to figure out where $400,000 is coming from, because I can't let this public safety, crisis occur to our citizens, and we're talking $400,000.
And it is affecting the citizens, because I'm hearing about it on Eastern Shore Undercover. And the man is sat next to me at the council meeting this past week. The only reason he came was because of that. And he said that, and I don't know the details of it, but he said that he lives just outside the city, and the city had to respond to his house, and they actually saved his son. So that man was very upset about this whole process. And many of the citizens are, because they're concerned, well, what happens if I live on Old Ocean City Road and Parsonsburg can't respond? What if they're busy? Salisbury's not going to respond. That could become a life and death situation.
Yeah, and the way that it sort of works is that, those houses where Salisbury covered, they still will go, but it's considered mutual aid, so they're 9 minutes later. You know as well as I do, and from being a police officer and knowing, on your page, how important is 9 minutes?
Absolutely.
I mean, we're talking life and death on certain things. And so, again, I don't understand, and I said this in there, and I'm going to say it till I'm blue in the face. I get political posturing. I get it. I'm in politics. It's dirty, and I don't like it. And people political posture, I've done it myself. I'm not proud of it. But what I'm saying is public safety cannot be the entity that we use for political posturing. We can't.
No.
We can't. And I hate the position we're in right now.
this isn't taking a dig at the county or the sheriff's department, but our county sheriffs aren't the highest paid. Mm-hmm. So
you're right.
You're asking for people to come here and work, but they're not getting any money. They're not getting the respect from the county council. And how are you going to put men and women in a uniform who are up to the caliber of the rest of the state and the county when you're not even giving them any money? And then when it comes time for them to get a COLA, which correct me if I'm wrong, basically the FOP or the sheriff's department were basically paying most of that anyway.
Yeah, they were paying it for themselves.
So
yeah,
it just goes to show, it's like you said, it's posturing and it's just not right.
Yeah, no, it is. And I hate, again, public safety is just not the time to do it. And,
No.
There are a couple of other entities that I think were very politicized during this whole budget. Education was, and we don't even have to go into the Fruitland primary thing, but that was a whole big thing. They have taken specific things and really, tried to, I feel like, belittle me, degrade my office, and then putting themselves on this pedestal. And I don't know if it's to make it seem like they don't need my office and whatever else. But, we were at our department head meeting, and I know we'll kind of wrap up in just a sec, but we were at my department head meeting this morning, and Bunky made a really good point. He said, however you feel about Julie, however you feel about the executive, you have to set that aside, because not only will this ballot initiative get rid of the executive, it's getting rid of Bunky, it's getting rid of Matt, it's getting rid of Lisa, and it's getting rid of AK. And these women, especially, they work so hard on constituent services. The council members will call into them to figure out the constituent services. They have staff. Yeah. They have a council attorney. They have a secretary who could do it, but they don't. They send it over to us. And so you are getting rid of an entire entity that does so much good. So if you as a citizen have ever called my office and you have talked to Lisa or you have talked to AK and you have gotten an issue resolved, it's affecting them too. And so I don't think, honestly, just to kind of wrap up with this whole ballot initiative, I don't think they thought it all the way through. It's personality driven. They're not thinking about the staff that's being affected. They're not thinking about our bond rating, all these different things of the uncertainty of government. And it's really, really causing an issue. It's causing an issue. I've literally been, Congressman Andy Harris, Governor Westmore, these people are like, what the heck is going on? People from their office, their staff, what the heck is going on? And so when you have those different entities reaching out, real estate agents, business community, those type of people, and they're all saying, what the heck is going on? It's just, I don't know.
And even further than that, I don't remember his name. He's a Delmar guy, call him Cornbread.
Oh, Delegate Anderson.
Anderson, that's it. Even he said many months ago, he came to the council meeting, he said, look, you guys got to learn to get along because it's going to affect me getting you guys money. So it goes all across the state.
It definitely does. And the thing is that a lot of people, to end on a positive note, there are a lot of things that have happened in these last 18 months that are good, that have happened, and we have worked together. The Verizon building, I know you had talked about that on your show, the sanitary bill, House Bill 1340. I literally today signed for another building for our CAC to move out of the state's attorney's office. She is overcrowded there. We're able to get this other building. We have the Ward Museum, us going, from the library to the Ward Museum. We all had to work together on those deals, and we did. And so that's what I just don't understand, is that there were such good things that we were able to move forward on for the betterment of the county. And then you still have all this little nitpicking going on, and I don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't either. I've gone to the council meetings and begged for them. Hey, look, just find a way to get along. It's not what's beneficial for the taxpayers.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're 100% right. So anyway, well, I know we are almost out of time, but Earl, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And again, I just want to say also, thank you for Eastern Shore Undercover, and thank you for your page. And I feel that I know that there are so many people that reach out to you. Can you post this? Can you post this? Can you post this? Because they know that it's going to reach so many audience members and so many people out there. And it has helped numerous ways: finding dogs, finding children, solving crimes, promoting events. It's amazing what you guys have done. And it's and it's you and your family, right? It's you in Spring, right, that do it. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's awesome. So they have a legacy, I guess, to continue on with. So they'll have to take over Dad's
my
business.
grandkids will take over one day.
Yeah, right?
My kids are like, I don't want to do it, Dad. Just get me away from it.
That's funny. So anyway, well, thank you again for being here. I really appreciate it and giving me your insight on some things. So Thank you all. I really appreciate you all tuning in, and we will keep you updated. I started the executive exclusive because of the lawsuit with Matt Leitzel that we ended up winning twice. And so this is, I guess this just keeps the show going. I'll be hitting, I forget what episode this is, maybe 13 or 14 now, but we'll just continue on and making sure that people, hear the other side of things or hear, because between both sides, there is the truth. But I appreciate you all, and please feel free to reach out. We are in the office, obviously, Monday through Friday. If there's anything that I can help you with constituent-wise or any questions that you may have about what is going on, but we will keep you up to date with the ballot initiative and how that looks. It looks like the council will be taking their vote on June 18th. So we will obviously have a executive exclusive talking about that meeting as well. So thank you all, and I hope you all have a great day.